How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back with another FPL live stream here on Twitch. And today we're going to be taking a look at the FPL deadline for game week 37. There's been some interesting news, transfer news potentially. Harry Kane looking to leave Spurs, so will it be his last game in a Tottenham Hotspur shirt versus Aston Villa this midweek? That is definitely possible. He's been a great servant to the club, and he's done basically all he can. But unfortunately, Spurs had their best chance versus Liverpool in the Champions League final, which was put up pretty quickly after they conceded a penalty within like the first minute or two. Some other news: Jota's obviously out for the season. We mentioned that last episode or last stream. Maguire's out. I have both of those players in my team. And there's the big three to captain this week: Salah, Fernandes, Kane. They all have fantastic fixtures. They're all kind of playing for something. Kane is still obviously looking to get Spurs at least some type of European football and go for the Golden Boot. Salah's looking to get top four and the Golden Boot. And Fernandes is the fans are back. So it's going to be the first time Fernandes has played in front of the fans in a little bit. The last time I think he played in front of the fans was would have been the game that they won, I think it was 2-0 versus City when McTominay scored that goal when Ederson made the bad outfield pass. So hopefully they all have something to play for. I currently don't have Kane, and I'm considering potentially taking a hit for him, but there's something about the Leicester boys and Iheanacho and Vardy that just screams maybe there's still a turn yet for the top four race. But yeah, we'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at the Whipping Boys table as we normally do. My Who to Captain table. I only got 3 names on it this week. The goals imminent table, so players that are looking to potentially score. And we'll just kind of run over the fixtures as we normally do. And then maybe I'll do my transfers on stream. But probably wait for the news tomorrow, because I think in all situations that I could potentially, hits that I could potentially do, I think that I should be fine on all fronts in terms of what, like money. I have 1.7 million in the bank, and I should be good for all of them. Like, even if I have to stretch to Vardy for Kane, downgrading Jota to another midfielder is easy to do. Maguire downgrade is easy to do. There's many different ways I can basically skin a cat, as it were. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So we're at 773k. So again, we're inside the top million. So we're 6 figures, which is not the greatest, but it's also not terrible either. If I can get 500k, I'll probably take it. But ideally, we wanted, our goal was top 10k, having getting around the 35k mark last season. This is the first season I've done, full season I've done with videos and that sort of stuff, as well as really looking at the stats and checking out what players to potentially bring in, and kind of take in as much FPL content as I can. But it's also been the wackiest season as well. A lot of variables, a lot of intangibles, like obviously COVID-19, the strikes, which cause cancellations, just freak injuries, managers holding, being more stringent in terms of what information they give out. The very compressed format. Most teams didn't really have a preseason. So yeah, a lot of different things going on for this. But we move on. So this is the team as it currently stands. I have 2 red flags in it, so they can technically be fixed with players on my bench. They can technically be fixed. Masuaku, if he plays, has a pretty good fixture versus West Brom, and that'd be nice if he did, because if he was fit and available, I would put him in a heartbeat, wouldn't have to worry about Maguire, job done. And if he's fit for the next game after that, I believe they play somebody quite easy, Southampton, on the last day, so I would play him as well. I could play Ward-Prowse, but they're versus Leeds, which is a bit, not ideal of a fixture. Set pieces are something that Leeds do struggle with, so maybe is a bit of a differential. Got an assist last week too. It's just the forwards, Iheanacho and Vardy. Do I want to have them both versus Chelsea? Don't have Kane, who are playing Aston Villa, who Martinez will be going up against. So if I do bring in Kane, he will be going against my goalkeeper. So maybe I just forego Spurs altogether. And just go with some fun picks. Go with something interesting. Go with something different, and just hope that Martinez pulls off a worldie, and the fans don't help Spurs at all, which would be ideal for my team if I don't bring in any Spurs players. So, with that being said, let's take a quick look at just a reminder of what the fixtures are looking like. So, Man United, Southampton, Brighton, and Chelsea, they get us kicked off on Tuesday, the 18th, tomorrow. So those will be the first teams to get home crowds. United versus Fulham, and already relegated Fulham. I expect United to win here, and I expect it to be a pretty comfortable margin. United will go full strength, almost certainly. And then they'll probably rotate in the Wolves game with maybe a couple of minutes here and there for some players to get them ready for the Europa League final, which is Wednesday of the following week. So a week on the 19th. So basically a week on Wednesday, United will be playing the Europa League final, and the Champions League on that weekend after that. So it's a week Saturday. So yeah, it's not much turnaround time for Europa League. Got a full week off for the likes of City and Chelsea, though, so they should be fine. And then obviously some very important fixtures. Chelsea versus Leicester, big game, big game. That could potentially determine whether Chelsea's safe, even though they still need to pick up points and they still need to rely on potentially Liverpool dropping some of those points or make things easier on them. But Chelsea getting only a draw in this game, and Liverpool winning, if we were to check the Premier League table, which we have up right here. Just going to scroll to make it so we can see the whole table. Don't want to leave anyone out. If Chelsea were to draw and Liverpool were to win, Chelsea would be 1 point behind Liverpool, and Liverpool would jump into that 4th spot. Also, Spurs would be 1 point behind them if they were to win versus Aston Villa. So again, Chelsea need to win this game. Leicester would be more than happy with a draw, because they would go into the final game where they just need to match Chelsea's result, basically, which they can definitely do. They are versus Spurs. Chelsea is versus Villa. Leicester, I believe, has the home game on last season, so that would definitely help them out quite a bit. So they have the advantage there, where Spurs would be away from home on the final day of the season, and they'd be facing Leicester. They'd literally be facing each other, and Chelsea would be away to Villa, which would be a little bit on the tricky side. I mean, Villa Park with fans in it is a very, very tough place to go. So definitely going to be interesting. Southampton versus Leeds, that could be a potentially an anything scoreline, to be perfectly honest. Southampton are usually quite good at set pieces, and Leeds are not very good at defending them, although the defense has been quite good recently. And Southampton have been quite open on the break and just open in spaces, and Leeds are very good at hitting people on the break, so could be quite interesting there. Hey John Wick, how's it going? I have been doing good, hope you have as well. I'm gonna need some help in terms of transfers potentially. I'm not sure what to do, so I'm kind of looking over the fixtures and kind of just seeing what potentially we could be looking at. Brighton versus City, I don't think, after the free hit was fine getting City players. Don't think I'm gonna touch this game at all. And I'm glad that they put it in the fixture slot where nobody really cares about that one. Everyone's gonna probably be watching United versus Fulham or Southampton versus Leeds, because those are going to be the games, that people would tune into first. Brighton versus City, no team really has anything to play for. Brighton have had fans in the ground since basically games have been behind closed doors. They were one of the very few teams to actually have fans in their stadium. And City, it's probably going to be whatever. And then people will just tune into Chelsea, Leicester once Southampton leads and Man United, Fulham are over. So that'll be interesting to see as well. And then Everton, Wolves, and then Newcastle, Sheffield United, Spurs, and Villa all kick off at the same time on Wednesday. Everton, Wolves, again, should be comfortable for Everton. Maybe the fans, maybe the home fans is what they've been missing, because they've been awful at home this season. Newcastle, Sheffield United, pretty much this game just for pride, really. And then Spurs, Villa is important for Spurs if they want to maintain a European place. Could potentially be, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, Harry Kane's last stand in a Spurs uniform, as he could be on the way to bigger and better things potentially. Crystal Palace versus Arsenal, another perfect game. I applaud the Premier League to put in between the games that basically just going to be halftime filler for most viewers, because most people are going to be probably watching Spurs Villa, because that actually has some meaning for it, and then everyone's going to be watching Burnley, Liverpool, and West Brom versus West Ham as well. So that should be quite interesting. Obviously, Liverpool getting a win and Chelsea losing to Leicester would be very interesting going into the final day of the season, because Liverpool would have the fans at home versus Crystal Palace, a team that's been a little bit more adventurous recently, which could cause they could shoot themselves in the foot, because Liverpool likes space and behind. Chelsea need to win this game, and they have fans. They have had fans in a couple of games since the games have been initially put behind closed doors during the pandemic. And Leicester have just won against them in a very close game. Chelsea obviously having a goal disallowed, and Tielemans' wonder goal was the fine margins which allowed them to win their first FA Cup. So congratulations again to Leicester City, and it proves that you can do it the right way. You can have an owner that loves the club, loves the area, wants to do the best for the people, and is all about that. So I definitely applaud Leicester for that. So yeah, that's the fixtures, and here is let's take a quick look back at the table here, so we can see pretty much everything that we need to see on the screen. I don't want to have to maneuver the screen again, but it just shows the form guide on the side there, that you guys aren't really missing too much on that. But United, basically, if United get a win versus Fulham, they guarantee themselves second, no matter what Leicester, Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs, or anyone else behind them do, which I think they will do. Fans, at home should be quite comfortable. Leicester winning versus Chelsea, they will definitely take a win, because that guarantees them top four, 100% guaranteed. No questions asked. They will guarantee themselves top four. Whether it's third or fourth, they will be in the top four. And then even if Chelsea win the Champions League, Leicester will still get into the Champions League, because there's no wonky stuff where like Arsenal could win the Europa League. So that would have been a situation. So basically, if Leicester had come fourth, Liverpool comes third, let's say Chelsea ends up fifth, and Arsenal had won Europa League, and then Chelsea had won the Champions League, basically whoever came in fourth in the Premier League, I believe, does not make it into the Champions League, which would be quite harsh after finishing fourth. So that's a very rare scenario, but that scenario cannot happen, because Arsenal got knocked out by Villarreal, who is in the final playing Manchester United. So yeah, me personally, the way I think it's going to go, I think Leicester City and Chelsea are going to end up having a score draw of some kind. I think it predicted a 1-1. And then Liverpool will win, which will put Liverpool in the driver's seat, because all they need to do is just win their last game. It's at home. No questions asked. They will be in the top four no matter what the other two teams do. Leicester would then have to match or better Chelsea's result. So basically, if they win, they're in. And yeah, it could put a lot of pressure onto Chelsea. But I think going into the final day, Chelsea should beat Aston Villa. But again, they'll have their fans back for the first time through the whole season. Liverpool have had fans in the stadium during this season in a couple games. I believe Spurs had once. I think they had fans there. Chelsea have, Liverpool have, but Leicester and United haven't. So that'll be quite interesting to see as well. And neither have City. The Manchester area was one of the worst areas, basically. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see. In terms of the 7th place finish, I mean, West Ham have really slipped down. I don't see Everton catching West Ham, though, because I think they're probably going to lose versus City. City's at home, final day of the season. They get to lift the trophy that day. They're definitely going to want to go out and win. Arsenal, again, Not really sure there. Maybe they can potentially get into one of those spots, but they need to win both their games. They're, are they winnable games? Uh, they have Crystal Palace, who they should in theory beat, but these are the types of teams that they haven't been beating this season. And then they have Brighton, so two teams where they should beat on paper, but haven't done it in past game weeks. So could be very interesting to see how that pans out. But all things considered, I'm really excited. The Chelsea-Leicester game is going to be the highlight of the week, I think, in terms of an entertainment point of view, because Leicester, they know if they go and win this game, they're in top 4, and that would have been a fantastic season for them. Top 4 guaranteed, whether it be 4th or 3rd. They'll be in the top 4 and an FA Cup. You can probably say that probably secures, in my opinion, Brendan Rodgers for manager of the season. Hands down. If Pep Guardiola wins the Champions League, okay, then there's arguments for it. But again, Leicester, in most people's minds, have no right in a sense in terms of what they have available to them to be winning, trophies, to be in the top 4. A few weeks ago we had the whole Super League and Leicester wasn't even mentioned, even though Leicester's won the Premier League more recent than Manchester United. They've won the Premier League more recently than Arsenal. They've also won the FA Cup, obviously just now. Obviously, Arsenal won it last season. And Spurs haven't won a trophy in, I think it's going on 12 or 13 years, something like that. So, again, they do have they make astute signings. They have quality players, and I think they definitely deserve it. And I think if David Moyes maybe gets a top 6 place, maybe gets Europa League or something like that, I would say he's probably in contention there as well. But I think if Pep Guardiola wins the Champions League, again, I don't know if they do these like manager of the seasons based on, what they do elsewhere other than the Premier League. But if it's just based on the Premier League, in my opinion, I would say Brendan Rodgers definitely deserves it, because top 4 is, just remarkable. The team has good quality players. They've been probably the second most decimated by injuries, apart from Liverpool. I mean, they had players, a few players in their team fasting during Ramadan as well. And they just have, they have had a bunch of injuries. Johnny Evans has been in and out of the side. Suanchu has been out for almost half the season, I want to say. Fofana's been out for a significant period of time. Madison's had his share of injuries. Vardy hasn't looked fully fit, and it's been on and off, at times. They have Dennis Pratt, who's out for a while. Harvey Barnes, who's out for a significant period of time. They've had a lot of players out. Even Castagne's been out. Pereira's been out with a long-term injury and has only recently come back. So they are definitely looking to finish strong. And I hope they do beat Chelsea, personally, because I would love to see either Chelsea or Liverpool go into Europa League. As a United fan, there are one of the, kind of the traditional 6, as it's called, or the greedy 6, or whatever you want to call them now. I guess you can call them the 6 richest clubs in the land, even though technically Leicester has more money than like Spurs and Liverpool, I think, in terms of what their owners are net worth. But the traditional 6, as it were, it'd be nice to see a couple of them knock down a peg. Spurs have been kind of languishing around that position all season. Liverpool surging past Chelsea, which just prove what determination can do, even when being riddled by injuries. Chelsea falling at the last step. They seem to be losing at the wrong time, is all I'm saying. So, yes, on a one-off game, they could potentially pull something off versus Man City, and maybe Pep overthinks it or something. Then, they can maybe get something in salvage the season. They can also get Champions League via that as well. But City's obviously no easy feat. So, and Chelsea knows what it means to win the Champions League, where City's never even been in a final. This will be their first final. So it should be quite interesting to see. But, yeah, hope Leicester do well. I'm really rooting for him, especially if I keep Vardy and Iheanacho, who I currently have in my team. Yeah, we definitely want them to do well if we have 2 of those strikers. And how many players would that put me? So in my current team, let's say I make no transfers. I just put in Ward-Prowse, put in Masuaku, and hope for the best. Players that I would have playing would be, I'd have Bruno Fernandes and Shaw. potentially Ana, so that's potentially 3. Ward Prowse 4, and then I'd have 6 players going then, and then I'd have 5 players on the second day, which would be not ideal. My 5 players would pretty much be most in the Liverpool and West Ham games, the two end games. I'd have obviously the goalkeeper, and then some of the early game for Everton. Yeah, let's take a look at quickly. Let's take a look at the goals imminent table. So this is a table that is designed by one of the members on Fantasy Football Scout called Jonty. You may have seen him if you watch the Scoutcast, which is a show which is basically where this site all originated from. If you watch FPL Black Box, FF Scout Mark is the originator of the site and has only gone from strength to strength. And it's only £20 for the entire year. £20 for the entire yearly subscription, and you can create all these cool stats tables and that sort of stuff. This isn't just advertisement. This is me saying that it's just a great tool to help enhance your FPL game. And yeah, I think it's just great fun. It shows your season ticker. It shows various different tables that people can create and show publicly, and I think it's quite good to see. So on the goals imminent table, so this is a minimum of 10 goal attempts, and you've scored 0 or 1 goals in that time. And yeah, these are players that should potentially be scoring sometime soon because they missed a bunch, and they're definitely due. Diego Jota, well, he's not going to be playing because he's injured for the remainder of the FPL season. Timo Werner is on there. No surprises there. Ollie Watkins, Sadio Mane, Richarlison, Madison, Tielemans, Trent Alexander-Arnold, somebody who's had a few goal attempts. And has not scored. Nathan Redmond and Ruben Neves, or Neves, however you want to pronounce it. But definitely some interesting names on that table. I think Mane is definitely a potential differential. Fernandes out to Mane on the final day of the season could be something. Especially if Liverpool need to get some goals, because that is definitely a possibility. Liverpool needing goal difference in order to secure themselves top 4. There is a scenario where that can happen. And basically, it would be if Chelsea won and Liverpool won, they both be on 63 points. If Leicester beat Spurs on the final day, Liverpool would have a minimum of 1 goal difference advantage, so they would need to make sure that they scored enough goals to allow themselves to go through. And they would obviously have to win, and so would Leicester. So yeah, could be quite interesting there. But yeah, back to the team. So I need to see if Masuaku's fit, because if Masuaku's fit, I like him versus West Brom. I can't remember if he played. Did he play the last time they played West Brom? No, he got injured before that because he was injured for a very long time. Yeah, they played him in 19. But he is quite attacking, and does provide some width, which West Ham, probably could definitely use with. I think Cresswell is somebody that benefits from him being in that left wing back position. I think it allows them to be a bit more dynamic, to create from different areas. It allows for overlaps and underlaps between the two because they're both naturally, good left backs and by themselves. Masuaku can be a bit rash at times, but it allows for them to basically interchange. And Cresswell kind of plays as an auxiliary third center back, which allows them to basically play one more attacking player, which allows for more creativity. But it also allows for defensive solidity as well, because Cresswell is a very good defender in his own right and can deliver from deep, which also means that he doesn't necessarily have to go far up the pitch in order to create something, which is quite good. And he can just let Masuaku do what he wants to do. Also having Declan Rice back, I think, alongside Souček, allows Souček to kind of push into the box and allow Declan Rice to just sit. And if they're up against a tougher team, then they can kind of just hold in the double pivot and do well in that. But their 2 games are versus West Brom and Southampton, so I don't see any problems there for them. That should be 2 wins. And then maybe West Ham is in the mix for. I mean, I don't think they can make top 4, just based on their position. Same as Spurs. I mean, they would need Liverpool. And Chelsea to lose both their last 2 games, and they would have to win both their games, and they would have to get more points than Spurs. That's basically how it works. And then Spurs, same thing, but they would have to get more points than West Ham. So yeah. But yeah, if Masuaku is fit, then I can put him straight in for Maguire, and that potentially saves me a transfer. I can alternatively just use the transfer to get rid of Maguire and put Ward-Prowse in, because he does have an okay fixture versus Leeds at home. Fans being back in the stadium and all that could allow for a couple of set piece chances, which Leeds this season haven't been the greatest on, and Southampton could potentially hurt them in that field of play, as it were. And basically, what it would look like is Ward-Prowse would basically come in for Jota here. We'd still play 3-4-3, and if Masuaku, let's say, wasn't fit, I would just take Maguire out, and I would just bring in somebody who's going to be good for 2 fixtures. That's going to be sure to play for the end of the season. I could bring in Robertson. I can't go to Trent. I would need to take a hit for that. I can go Robertson. I can go Phillips if I wanted to alleviate funds for potential transfer elsewhere. Other defenders that I could potentially look at before the end of the season. Maybe if I have any inclination of a City defender, maybe. But ideally don't want to go there. Newcastle, funnily enough, could be a decent shout for a defender, because they play Sheffield United and Fulham. Again, that's more of a pride thing, so a little bit of a mixed bag there. Maybe a West Ham defender. They do play West Brom and what is it, Brighton to end the season? No, not Brighton. Southampton, right? It could be quite interesting. Matt Ritchie for Maguire, yeah, that's definitely a good shout as well. Would definitely fall under the kind of differential and have fun category. And would be definitely quite interesting. Only 4.9 million. Is starting every game. Is kind of playing, a very attacking sort of role when he's able to get up the pitch. And could provide for his team. I think he's on. I think he's now going to be on penalties if Joe Linton isn't on the pitch, because Willock missed his, I think. I know that Joe Linton definitely is. But yeah, it's a shame, couldn't go straight to Trent, because that would be the transfer that I would definitely go for. I think I tried to set it up like that, but I think using Calvert-Lewin's, the funds to get Calvert-Lewin was the reason why I can't do that. But ideally, if Masuaku's fit, I would play him for the last 2. I would play, I could play Ain on the last day of the season versus Newcastle instead of playing Digne versus Man City, which would be a bit of a differential pick in itself, which would mean I wouldn't have to do transfer. That's what I'm hoping for, because then I can do some, much more, much spicier things. I could just leave Maguire on the bench. He could just stay there for the rest of the season. Even if Shaw doesn't play, I still have Digne. Do I like Digne versus Man City? No, but he can always potentially pop up with an attacking return. But like this week, I can go for something, something a bit crazy if I wanted to. I can get Jamie Vardy out. I can go directly to Kane if I wanted to in one transfer. That is something I can definitely do. It doesn't allow me to change Iheanacho, though, who I would just basically put on the bench, probably. Maybe I still play him, maybe I won't. And then if I wanted to, do the transfer from Kane to Aguero the following week, I can definitely do that as well. But I think just the one of Kane, just to bring in Kane just for the 1 week, if I feel like I'm going to captain Fernandes potentially, I don't see any potential in that. I'm going to bring in somebody that's probably going to just reduce my rank, because he's going to be over 100% potential, 100% effective ownership. Because I think the captaincy this week, is quite good for all 3. Like all 3, Fernandes, Salah, Kane, they can all be, kind of in the conversation in terms of what they offer. Yeah, whom to captain. But here's the table itself. So I'm gonna move this across a little bit so you can get a better better view of it. But this is organized by expected goal involvement. So these are the big three, as it were, the big three big hitters. Over the last 4 matches, you have Salah just barely top on expected goal involvement with 3.38. Kane on 3.35. And Fernandes actually not far behind, 2.88. So he's actually higher than I thought he was going to be. In terms of goals, you got Salah on 3, Kane on 3, and Fernandes on 2. Chances created actually is Salah is top with 11, which is something that surprises me. So the numbers show that Bruno Fernandes shouldn't necessarily be nowhere near the best captaincy choice, but he is somebody who thrives off the the energy and being the kind of the man, as it were. And with fans back in the ground, he's probably going to be with the captain's armband as well. I would think playing versus Fulham at home with Maguire out, I can see that being potentially like as a differential more than anything else. I don't think Salah at my rank will be as highly captained as Kane, which may mean that Salah, if Salah wasn't 100% effective ownership last week, he's definitely not going to be it this week, I don't think. On Game Week 38, he's probably going to be over 100% effective ownership though. I have Kane, Salah, Bruno, and Greenwood, Lingard, and Antonio. Yeah, so you have a lot of good shouts. Like there's a lot of good even differential captaincy shouts this week too. Like if we look at if we just look at some of the games, like Leeds away has always been a decent fixture. So Rafinha, Bamford could potentially be one there, although I think Bamford's fallen off quite a bit. An outside shout on one of the Leicester guys. Versus Chelsea could be interesting. Calvert-Lewin versus Wolves maybe. Even a punt on a Newcastle player could be, but I think that's a differential enough. Kane versus Villa, obviously. An Arsenal player maybe could potentially be quite good there. Antonio, Lingard, obviously as well. Versus West Brom, who are probably going to leave spaces open. Because they're at home and they probably feel more inclined to kind of push on. The fans will be there. They want to show an attacking performance, as it were, because it'll be the only game that they have some fans in the ground before they get relegated, which is a bit unfortunate for them. I think that Fernandes' numbers are yes, they show that his performances have declined over the last 4 matches, but again, captain's armband at home with the fans for the first time in would have been over a year and 2 months, so 14 months since they've had fans in the ground. Definitely going to be something that United are going to want to perform. And then shots inside the box. Fernandes this is kind of the key, the crucial one. Shots inside the box. Fernandes 10 shots inside the box. Kane with 12, Salah with 13. So they're all very similar numbers. Shots inside the box typically mean better chances. It's just big chances total. Fernandes, only one of those shots inside the box, exclusively shots inside the box, are going to be big chances, or can be big chances. Only one of them has been a big chance for Fernandes. So that may be a bit, kind of wayward, as it were. But Salah has had 4 out of 13, and Kane's had half. So half of the shots Kane's had in the box have been basically big chances, which is quite interesting. But it's very interesting to see that Salah's created the most chances. He's also created 2 big chances, whereas Kane's created none. So Kane's kind of being more of the goal scorer, which is basically what Kane's going to do. He's going to be like, I want to get my golden boot, and I want to go move on to bigger and better things, which is quite interesting. So yeah, a very interesting thing. I think there's merits to all 3. So if you say, I'm going Kane, and I have all 3 of them because I think Kane's going for the golden boot, and I think Aston Villa's defenses look rubbish, and he's at home, fantastic. I like that argument. Salah also going for the golden boot versus a Burnley attacking team, and has also created the most big chances over the last 4 game weeks out of those 3. Most shots inside the box too. Fantastic. I like that too. Bruno Fernandes, captain's armband. Fans at their ground for the first time since March of last year, whereas Kane's had 1 game, I think, with fans there, and Salah's had a few games at Anfield with the fans there, which didn't seem to help. Because they were going through a very torrid time. Fernandes could be a differential pick, which is why I may end up going with him and just forego Kane altogether. Because it's not nice basically bringing in somebody who's going to be, over 100% effective ownership potentially. So, yeah, I think I might just go Fernandes just because it's the Fernandes captain's armband, Old Trafford, 10,000 fans in the stadium or however many it's going to be against Fulham. Let's have it, basically. And Kane would only be for the 1 week anyway, because most likely I'm going to be bringing in Aguero for his swan song, as it were. So I just need to make sure that if I do go to make that transfer from Vardy to Aguero, that I want to make sure that I have zero point 0.2 million in the bank. And that's assuming that he plays. If he's going to play, then I'm definitely going to bring him in. If he's not going to play, then yeah, then I can go elsewhere. I can go for I can still potentially leave money to bring in Kane maybe, or maybe I go Fernandes to Mane, because I think Mane is a similar price. 0.3. If I leave 0.3 in as well, I can get Mane in, and it would be a good differential for the final day of the season. He'll have fans in the ground as well, which could potentially help them, and they may need a win in order to get top 4. So, and if they know that if they win and they're in, then it could be quite interesting. But yeah, my hope is that Masuaku is going to play, because if I can get away with playing him this week, that means I don't have to ever transfer Maguire. I don't have to make a defender transfer for the rest of the season. I don't have to make a goalkeeper transfer for the rest of the season, which makes things nice because I like doing attacking options. So Bruno is favorite for the armband. I think Bruno is going to be the captain for United when they play Fulham tomorrow. I would be shocked if anyone else had the armband. I would be shocked, because I think Dean Henderson's going to play, so that kind of rules out David De Gea. I don't think they'd give it to Paul Pogba, although that's definitely a slight possibility. But I think maybe they give it to Edinson Cavani. That's possible. That's possible. But in which case, just give it to Bruno anyway. So, but I think that's the only possibility. Maybe Rashford. But I think Bruno, captain's armband, Old Trafford, only game that you're going to have with fans in the stadium. First game that you've had fans in the stadium for 14 months. It just makes sense. Put it on Bruno. Let him lead the team out. Let him go there. Get a good victory. And then hopefully he doesn't have to wear the captain's armband in the final versus Villarreal. And he can just give it back to Maguire, who will hopefully be fit for that. So, yeah. What else? But yeah, basically, I'd be hopefully if Masuaku, because if Masuaku is going to play and he stays fit and he's likely to start both games, then he's one of my defenders. Shaw probably won't play. Last day of the season, Maguire will be injured. Aina will be playing Newcastle at home on the last day of the season. Yeah, it'll be a pride thing. He played 90 minutes the last time they played, and basically hardly ever gets rested. And it should be good to go. If he doesn't play, that means I'd have to be 3 defenders down, which wouldn't be ideal. Digne is definitely going to play versus City. We'll just have to hope for an attack and return. Hope City don't just smack them, because they could definitely do that. Because I think they're just going to be like, feed the ball to Aguero and score on that last game, if assuming Aguero's fit. Ward-Prowse, isn't a terrible pick for this game week, but then I can if I wanted to go to Greenwood as an example, I can't do that because I have 3 United players, so I can't do the straight swap to Greenwood. Lingard I already have. I could go for somebody like Mason Mount, who would be a differential pick, or even another Chelsea midfielder like maybe a Kai Havertz. But again, 2 tougher fixtures. Chelsea have been on the downswing a little bit, not really wanting to go there. So yeah, it's definitely going to be, it's a bit of a tricky situation. Other midfielders, maybe Rafinha, but Rafinha wasn't taking set pieces, so I don't really like that too much, that he's not taking set pieces. So maybe a Harrison is someone I can go for. I just take a look at some of the midfield options here. So Jota, the most I can go up to is 8.6. So we can't go to like Son or Rashford as an example. We can go to Harrison. Pereira could be an interesting one versus West Ham and Leeds on the last 2 games. The last time they played those 2 teams, Leeds, they lost 5-0, which isn't great. And the last time they played West Ham, they lost 2-1, but Pereira did score. So he could be an option there as well. I'm not really looking to go to Zaha. He has Arsenal and Liverpool. Grealish is someone who intrigues me because if I knew he was playing, yes, he's versus Spurs and Chelsea, but he could definitely play spoiler going into the final weeks of the season. So I'd be intrigued to know if he was playing or not. Like I said, Rafinha wasn't taking set pieces, so not ideal. Foden is someone that also intrigues me, but he's somebody that is not necessarily likely to start both. Saka could be interesting, but I don't really trust Arsenal. They're playing against 2 teams which are technically worse than them. But could be a situation where they just kind of just whatever the rest of the season and just kind of really don't really care, which is definitely possible. Martinez with Sanchez as backup, Digne holding Saiss, Konsa, and Burn, Lingard, Bruno, Salah, Greenwood, Pereira, Kane, DCL, Antonio. Thinking of saving my transfer, so we'll have 2 in Gameweek 38. Yeah, perfectly fine, I think. Because then you can go into the last game of the season, you potentially get rid of DCL and Kane, so you can go like for cheeky punts or something like that. You can get rid of Bruno and Kane, and you can go like Mane and Aguero or something like that. That could be an interesting combination for free. If you're not feeling comfortable with your defenders on the final day of the season, you can get rid of the likes of Saiss and Holding, depending on how much money you have, and go for maybe like a Leeds double up potentially, because Leeds have a very good fixture on the final day of the season. They play West Brom at home with the fans there, which will be there for the first time again. One of the very few teams that haven't had the fans in their ground at all this season. So the teams that have had fans is, I think Fulham had 1 game. I'm not entirely sure. Southampton has, Brighton has, Chelsea has, Everton has, Spurs have. I think Arsenal were going to, but didn't. And Liverpool has. Basically, all the teams near Manchester, they were unlucky. And some of the London clubs got lucky. Since Kane is leaving Spurs, will it affect his performance? That's another thing. We don't know. It could be Kane's swan song where he literally goes out with a whimper, goes out with a bang. It just depends. I think he's definitely going to probably... He's a professional... in terms of a professional person, as it were. I don't see Kane the type of player to down tools. I think he's somebody that's definitely gonna give it his all. He's definitely gonna want to win the Golden Boot. He's not gonna want to share it either. I think he definitely prides himself on that. So, looking for Burnley's defense for Gameweek 38, Taylor and Tarkowski. I don't think Burnley's defense is gonna be that good. Personally, they have been getting better over the last 4 matches. They're sitting around mid-table. But I'd still be concerned. Definitely this week is a gauge for them because they are playing Liverpool, who have been getting wins or been looking a little bit livelier, although they haven't been obliterating teams. But I would say this would be like kind of the acid test to see if they how well they do. Oh, they play Sheffield. Sorry, not I'm thinking of West Brom. Sorry. But yeah, even still, I mean, Sheffield did score a goal. So versus Everton, mind you, Everton have been way worse, but also Burnley haven't been as good defensively as well. Everton's only a few places below them, or a few places better than them actually, which is funny. considering I think their defense is definitely worse. But I think it's down to the fact that Pope being injured, having this shoulder problem that's been constantly bothering him the entire season, could be the reason for that. But basically, if you're playing against Newcastle, Fulham, I think you could go for them. And those teams are United and Sheffield United. But no one's going to buy Sheffield United players. So yeah, I think United this week. And Fulham play Newcastle. So maybe Newcastle next week could be interesting. And like you said, Burnley. Maybe Chris Wood. It would be fitting to bring in a Burnley attacker on the final day of the season. That was a terrible pun, but yeah. But yeah, it could be, again, we could see some crazy stuff on the final day of the season. A lot of players go for hits and that sort of stuff to mix things up. So yeah, I think it's definitely going to be quite fun to see how that kind of pans out. But some other transfers that I was looking at as well was potentially looking to move on one of my Leicester attackers, my cheaper Leicester attacker, in Iheanacho, and just play Vardy, because Vardy seems to like playing versus big six teams, or the traditional six, as it were. When he played Chelsea, they won 2-0 the last time they played, although he didn't score. But I think this could be a week to potentially bring in Antonio, stick him up front. He's going to play. The only problem that I would have is that he is injury prone. And if he does get injured, then I'm down another player. And I'm not really solving Jota or Maguire as a problem. Maybe Fernandes doesn't play in Gameweek 38. Maybe Shaw doesn't play in Gameweek 38 either, as they'll be rested for the final. So that could be a bit of an issue. So I think I might have to just, like, when looking at that transfer alone is one that I want to do. It is something that is causing problems because I need to start getting spaces in situations that don't allow for, hey, look, you're going to be down 5 players on the last day of the season. My rank's already bad enough, and it allows me to go for some fun punts. So maybe I do go for a hit or two or something like that. Maguire to Richie and Jota to Mount, and then just hope Chelsea versus Leicester is a goal fest? Maybe. Maybe that's possible. Hey Hoxton, how's it going? Glad that you can join us. I hope you had a good game week. There's another one right around the corner. But let's see, how much money would that leave me in the bank if I did that? So we went, what did we say? We said Maguire to Richie. I think I'll have plenty of funds. Richie, and then... Oh, Richie's a midfielder. Oh, I thought he was a defender. No, Richie's a midfielder, not a defender. That's interesting. I thought he was a midfielder or a defender. He's going to be a defender next season. I know that. I thought he was a defender. That's the best transfers for you. You play 3-4-3. Well, Richie's a midfielder. I can't play him in defense because he's not a defender. Yeah, how's it going, Hoxton? Yeah, Richie's a... Yeah, right? I didn't even know he was a defender. I didn't know he was a defender either. But if that's the case, if I were to go like Richie, or let's say I was going... how much is Joe Willock, someone who's been doing quite well? Joe Willock's 4.7. He's even cheaper, which would allow me to go for Trent. I would have plenty of money to go to Trent. And it would also, if I did want to get Kane, I can go... If I went Willock, Trent, and Kane, this would allow me to choose basically between Iheanacho and Ward-Prowse, which I'd probably play Ward-Prowse. And then I would play Trent, Shaw, and Digne. So that for a -8 could be quite spicy. And then on the final day of the season, if we went from Kane to Aguero, we could play Iheanacho because he's up against Spurs. We would play Willock. We would play... play Fernandes. Hopefully he would play. We'd play Lingard. We'd play Salah. If not, Ward-Prowse comes in. Digne would play, Trent would play, Shaw might play, Masuaku might play, Aina might play. I'm a couple of places above you, and that's not really saying too much considering my rank's a bit bad. But yeah, it's yeah, it is what it is. I mean, this season now is all about the last 2 weeks are all about fun. I just can't wait for the picture of just your whole team empty, 100 million in the bank, brand new, fresh, nice new players, nice new prices, lovely, and you get to go from the beginning. There's nothing better than that. Nothing better than that. That's the good stuff right there. That's the best feeling in FPL when you have a nice fresh team right off the bat. I can't wait. I'm waiting for Kane to join City. Honestly, if Kane joins City, he'll fit the mold of Aguero, basically. He'll be a player that is absolutely insane. Will play in the Premier League until he's around 32, and then his injuries will probably ultimately hurt him. Because I think in the last 5 seasons, Kane's had ankle injuries. On both ankles, basically. He's had problems with his ankles. A lot. Just on the subject of Kane, these are my basically like what I'm thinking. So if there's, you know, he wants to stay in the Premier League, almost certainly, because he wants to end up breaking Alan Shearer's record. I'm pretty sure that's what he wants to do. If he's going to do that, there's only 4 teams he would realistically go for or go to. Man City, I don't think City are spending that crazy amount of money on a striker, which Pep says they don't even need, when he has injury problems and may not necessarily fit their system because Kane doesn't really press very well. And City don't really spend money like that. They spend £60 million on like 4 players. They don't spend 120 all on one player. Mind you, that's the only position they technically need, apart from maybe left back. So it's going to be interesting on that front. But I think he'd be great at City. Personally, it would just be getting stupid amount of goals a season, and it'd be a place to go to win trophies. So that's the upside, I guess. Chelsea could definitely win trophies. Could definitely see him going Chelsea. But will Spurs sell directly to another London club? I don't think that they'll want to do that. Man United, I still think Man United's a bit of a project. You can't really guarantee trophies there, although he'll be in the Champions League. And will Kane necessarily help United? Not really, when you think about it. United are 3rd for chances created in the Premier League this season. We've also scored the most goals, I think. No, City are top for goals with 76. United have the second most goals with 70. So United definitely are in no shortage of scoring goals. If you look at Chelsea have only scored 55 goals this season. They're the outlier. West Ham scored more goals than them. They need somebody who puts the ball in the back of the net. So, yeah. For United, but honestly, I can see United spending that amount of money on one player when they know the Glazers will be like, oh, it's Glazeronomics. We know it's going to sell shirts. We know it's going to bring in more money. Make the fans forget about how they hate us, even though we won't forget because you've already crossed the line. And hopefully government legislation comes in and prevents them from doing anything stupid again. But I can definitely see United doing that. My problem is that there's 3 other positions that United need to strengthen in first before we go and buy another striker when United already have 3. We have Edinson Cavani. We have Anthony Martial, who's been injured for this whole time, but is still a good striker when he's up for it. And then Mason Greenwood as well. We also have Hugo down in the academy as well, who could be a very interesting prospect in his own right. So yeah, I don't think United necessarily needs a striker. Now, when Cavani leaves next summer, then maybe you look at Haaland, because Haaland has a release clause of 65 million, and I think it could be quite interesting on that front. And then, so Chelsea would definitely, like I said, would need, potentially, is probably the best fit, honestly, but would most likely go out the door. Also, United have Rashford, if they can play up front technically as well. And then Liverpool lastly. But the thing is with Liverpool, again, high pressing system. I don't think really Kane fits in there. But that type of goal scorer could potentially transform, Liverpool's team but it would require the likes of Mane and Salah to be a bit more on the creative side, which they haven't necessarily done on a consistent basis this season. So maybe they go back to that, and then Firmino kind of becomes the number 10 in that system, which would be interesting to see. But again, 120 million for Kane is going to be, or whatever the price is going to be very ridiculous. Kane going overseas. I still don't think Kane's going to go overseas. Like, I don't think he's going PSG. I don't think he's going to Real Madrid. PSG would have the money for him, but don't see why he would go there when he wants to stay in England. Real Madrid don't have money, so we saw that with the Super League. Sources said he wants to stay in England. Interested to see in Euro how City players react to him. Yeah, exactly. We see Phil Foden kind of walking over and doing this to him, then maybe he's kind of convincing him. Yeah. He wants to play under Pep. That's his desire. I wouldn't doubt it. I think it would be, honestly, for Kane, Kane's best move would either be to go to Man City, if Man City are going to utilize him in such a way, which would benefit Pep's system, and only Pep knows that, or Chelsea. I think both of those teams are definitely capable of winning the league next season. With Chelsea, it depends on if they get Champions League football. Because again, technically they still might not. But City, you're guaranteed Champions League football. You're guaranteed to get goals, which is exactly what you want. You're guaranteed top 4. You're almost guaranteed to basically win the Carabao Cup every year, which Kane would love to win. A trophy would be great for him. And the amount of chances that City get a game is ridiculous. Like, Kane's going to be scoring 500 goals a season or something stupid. Obviously, that's exaggeration. But I wouldn't put it past Kane to have a season like how Cristiano Ronaldo had when he scored 42 goals in all competitions when United won the Champions League in 2008 in Moscow. So that could be very interesting. I think City will literally not sign anyone. That's definitely possible. I think City, what City might do is they might go for another fullback that maybe can play both sides, and then maybe like a Ferran Torres type player, a very young, hungry player, willing to learn, someone that can kind of play across the front line and in the midfield. That sort of player, I think, is what they'll go for. Interesting. Son next season, first player in my draft. Well, again, Spurs might not be the outfit that they were. Son maybe good because Kane's good, potentially. And Martial, sad face. Yeah, Martial's been a bit of a disappointment. He's one of my favorite players. The problem is that in order to play in United's current system, you have to work really hard, and sometimes he kind of has that doesn't necessarily look like he's pushing the limits, as it were, from time to time. Don't think Salah will stay at Liverpool. Potentially. They're planning to sell Sterling. Could be interesting. If they do get rid of Sterling, that'd be quite interesting. Because that would, and then Ferran Torres would basically kind of pick up his mantle. And then who would you have? So if they bought Kane and sold Sterling, who would they have? So they have basically Kane and Jesus as your strikers. In terms of players that can play in the midfield, you would have Gundogan, Foden, Rodri, Fernandinho, De Bruyne. So that's your 5 midfielders. Out wide on the left, you would have Foden. Ferran Torres could play there. And then on the right, you'd have Bernardo Silva. You have Riyad Mahrez. At left back, you'd have Mendy, Zinchenko, but I think one of them could potentially be moved on, maybe. On the right, you have Walker and Cancelo, and then you obviously have your 4 center backs with Ake, Laporte, Diaz, and Stones, and then you have obviously Edison in goal. So maybe that's all they need. I think maybe they go for a defensive midfielder. Like, I think personally, if City went out and bought Declan Rice and Kane right now, it'd be over. KDB, Mahrez, Torres, Foden, Gundogan, Fernandinho, Jesus, Silva, Walker, Zinchenko, Stones. Yeah, they have lots of amount of players. They're bidding for Bertrand. That would be interesting. As like a backup option. I don't see him starting potentially. But it would definitely be interesting. I think what they need is they need a Kyle Walker type left back. If they got a Kyle Walker type left back, there's a decent delivery, very good at accelerating forward, but also very good at tracking back on that side. Because that's probably the one weakness that City probably has, is that if they get penetrated down the right hand side, they can often be a bit on the weak side because Zinchenko, Cancelo, and Mendy defensively on that side don't seem to be as solid defensively. Zinchenko's probably the best out of all of them. PVA, well, that would be interesting. Hey, Oliver, how's it going? Everything is all fine. Everything's good. I still don't know what my transfers are. You guys need to help me out. We're going off on tangents on players, on players for next season. We'll worry about that later. Maybe we'll do a Man City, playthrough on FIFA for on like a career mode or something. Does City need any players at the moment? Not really, to be honest. City can go into next season with the same team and still be fine. They'll probably just win the league again, but they'll definitely be challenged this time with Chelsea and Liverpool, I think. What are your thoughts on the top four, lady? Who do you think is going to clutch up? If I had to bet, I would say the top four, the way it's going to end out is with Chelsea's current form, I think they miss out. I think Liverpool pass them. It just depends on. It literally depends on the game tomorrow. And I think if we're looking at the table, so I got the table up here. So if I go off my predictions, my prediction would be that Leicester and Chelsea both they draw. So that puts and Liverpool win. Leicester would be on 67, Chelsea would be on 65, Liverpool would be on 66. And I think Liverpool is going to win on the last day, and I think Leicester. I think Leicester will get bare minimum a draw versus Spurs. Let's say they do get a draw. They'll be on 68. And I think Chelsea will beat Villa. And they'll be on 68 as well. With Liverpool winning on the last day, put them on 69. So it comes down to goal difference. So it depends on how big of a margin, if the goal difference is everything now. But, yeah. But if Leicester obviously beat Chelsea, then it's nail in the coffin. I think it's Leicester and Chelsea's to lose, basically. Leicester win tomorrow, they're in guaranteed. United win, they're guaranteed second. So John Wick thinks that my transfer should be Maguire to Fernandes, the Newcastle defender. So let's see what that looks like. So it'd be... let me just restore that. So Fernandes, the defender, and then Mount was the other one. That'll be some interesting differentials. And then the last day I can go Aguero and Mane for Fernandes and Vardy, potentially. Or Vardy to Kane and Jota to St. Maximin. Yeah, that's another thing. Do I have enough money for that? Let's see. So Jota, I should have money for that. I mean, I could just go Kane straight up, but St. Maximin would leave me 1.8 million. And then on the last day of the season, if I went to Aguero, I can get Trent as well. So that could be interesting. Chelsea got to win, surely. Chelsea have to win. They cannot draw. If they draw, they're in trouble. They're in deep, deep trouble because the likelihood is Liverpool beat Burnley, I think. I don't see Liverpool. Even if Chelsea draw and Liverpool, I don't see Liverpool drawing. I think they win. I just think Liverpool win. Chelsea can't draw, they have to win. And if Chelsea win, then the last day of the season is definitely going to be interesting because you got Liverpool on 66 points, Leicester on 66 points, with a very small goal difference between them. Chelsea would be on 67 points. So, yeah. That could be a yikes from me. Can I go, if I go Kane? I can't go Trent. I'm 0.4 off if I do St. Maximin. I'd have to go like Willock. Get ASM in the team now? Yeah, maybe. Wait, what happens if United win Europa League and get top 4? Does other team get a chance to get Champions League? So basically the way it works is places 1 through 4 get the Champions League spots. Fifth gets Europa League group stage automatically. Sixth gets a Europa League, like you have to play a couple of games to get into Europa League, basically. And then seventh gets like final stage Europa Conference League or something like that. So the only way Champions League spots can be basically like removed from that status, and this is only 4th place. So 4th place will not get Champions League if and only if a team outside the top 4 wins the Europa League, and the team that wins the Europa League is a Premier League club that is also outside the top 4. So, in the situation where, let's say Liverpool hypothetically gets 4th, Chelsea gets 5th. Liverpool would be in 4th and they'd be in a Champions League place. But if in that situation Chelsea then wins the Champions League, and let's say Arsenal had made it to the Europa League final and won it, then Liverpool wouldn't get top 4. That's the only situation, from my understanding, as to how that would work. But in this situation, top 4 is guaranteed. It's a very rare instance, in Arsenal, let's be honest, they weren't going to win it anyway, no matter who they played. Because they're awful at the moment. But yeah, that's the only situation that can happen. The only other interesting situation would be now is if Liverpool does make it in over the top 4 over Chelsea, and Chelsea then win the Champions League, then the Premier League would have 5 teams in the Champions League. They'd have Man City, Man United, Leicester, Chelsea, Liverpool, all in the Champions League. There would only be 1 Europa League spot, which would be directly into the groups, I think. And then 7th place would be it would be a conference league. It would be a conference league. Maguire to Robert or TAA, Vardy to Kane, and Jota to ASM. That's for me. I don't think I could do that. Well, Robertson I could do. I know I can do that. So I have St. Maximin and Kane already in the team. I can only get Robertson. If I went Willock as an example, if I went Joe Willock, whose stats are actually better than St. Maximin's, I can go Trent. Exactly. I can do that for -8 if I wanted to. And then I would play Martinez in goal. I play Digne, Trent, Shaw, Willock, Fernandez, Lingard, Salah, Kane, Calvert-Lewin, and then either Iheanacho or Ward-Prowse. But if we look at... let me bring up my stats tables. If I go to who to captain, because this will be interesting to see the stats. So if I do St. Maximin and Willock, so I'm going to do a direct comparison between St. Maximin and Joe Willock. Expected goal involvement, Joe Willock, 1.92. Joe Willock's obviously scored 4 goals, so a bit, interesting. St. Maximin's obviously definitely the creator. Big chances created, St. Maximin 1. Big chances, Willock's gotten 3. And Willock's had 8 shots inside the box versus St. Maximin's 2. So St. Maximin, typically, the way it works for Newcastle, St. Maximin, they win the ball back. St. Maximin gets the ball. He tries to then rip 5 players and then give it to someone, hopefully, who's in the box, which is usually Willock or Joelinton. Or Joelinton. And then, hopefully they score. That's kind of how it works. ASM or Rafinha or Harrison. If I had to pick between those three, I would say probably Rafinha. But the likelihood is, Rafinha's still not fully fit. That kind of doesn't really excite me. And it'd be very fitting because I would get in St. Maximin and he was in my team to start the season too, disappointingly. But yeah, I mean, if I'm definitely not opposed to that minus 8. Whether it be Trent or Robertson, I can go Robertson, who's against the grain, and would be a differential pick. And St. Maximin would obviously be interesting too. Jota to Rafinha straight up, yeah, because Jota's more expensive. I can do that. ASM on big points this game, potentially. So if I did Jota to Rafinha, that'd be 5.5 million. I can do Trent if I wanted to. I can do Vardy to Kane. I would be just short to do Aina to Trent. Although I wouldn't do that. I would just do Maguire instead. Jota replacements for me: Mount, Rafinha, Harrison, and ASM. Yeah, I like all of those picks, to be honest. Rafinha is a bit I'm still a bit skeptical. But ASM, if you give me a reason to watch Newcastle. So, yeah, it would be interesting. Have a feeling Pulisic is going to score a brace against Leicester, so I bought him at this point. I have nothing to lose. Yeah, I mean, if you have a gut feeling for somebody, go for it. Definitely go for it. That's what I say. But, yeah, we've actually gone 12 minutes over than what I normally would, but I'll post my lineup before the deadline tomorrow, for sure. I'm just going to check team news because, like I said, if Masuaku is fit, then that may change a few things. And I may not have to necessarily make a transfer because if Masuaku is fit and I can play him, then I can do a whole bunch of different things. I can do just Vardy to Kane if I wanted to. I could do Jota to St. Maximin, and then Maguire to Trent for a hit, and then I can play Masuaku, Shaw, Trent, Digne, Salah, Lingard, Fernandez, St. Maximin, and then Calvert-Lewin +1. There's many different things I can do if Masuaku is fit and is ready to play. So yeah, yeah, let's move over to the big screen. So yeah, that is gonna do it. If you haven't done so, make sure to follow us here. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And we will be back tomorrow with a video. It's gonna be a captaincy video. And we'll be back on Wednesday, same time, 7 p.m. EST, for the preview stream for the final game week. And we'll be doing finally a proper deadline stream. I might even come on even earlier. I might do an hour and a half versus an hour. We'll see kind of how it works out for the deadline stream on the Sunday. But there's going to be videos on Thursday and Friday as well. So make sure to check those out. And yeah, thanks for watching. And until the next one, take care.